In this lesson, we'll practice solving two-step equations. We'll focus on the questions, what are the parts of an equation, and how do I solve a two-step equation? First, the parts of an equation are variables, coefficients, and constants. First, a variable is the unknown value represented by a letter. So in this equation shown, the variable is x. Coefficients are the numbers being multiplied by the variable. So the coefficient in our example equation is -2. And constants are fixed terms. They are numbers without a variable. So in the equation, the constants are 11 and 35. To solve a two-step equation, we need to start by understanding that the goal is to find the value for the variable that makes the equation true. And we'll do this by isolating the variable. A couple of tips. In general, you'll follow the steps of first removing the constant terms. This is usually by addition or subtraction. And then second, you'll remove the coefficient. Each time we say remove, we mean to use the inverse operation to undo what's there. And I'll show you those in our examples. And as a reminder, an equation is something that is balanced. So what you do to one side, you have to always do to the other side of the equal sign to keep the equation balanced. We'll work through several examples in this video. Feel free to pause the video at any point to try an equation first before you see the solution worked through. Let's solve 3x plus 10 equals 22. So first, we're trying to isolate x, or in other words, get it by itself to see what its value is. We're going to start by removing the constant that's on the same side as x. So right now there is a positive 10. The inverse would be to subtract 10. And if I do that, it will remove the 10 from the left. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. So I know that this will cancel my 10, and that leaves me with 3x on the left. 22 minus 10 leaves me with 12 on the right. Next, I'm ready to remove the coefficient. 3 is being multiplied by x, so the inverse would be to divide by 3. Again, everything we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that leaves me with just 1x. And on the right, 12 divided by 3 is 4. This means the solution to the equation is x equals 4. Now, you always can check your answer in an equation by substituting it back in for the variable in the original equation. So if we think that x equals 4, let's plug it back in and make sure. So I'm rewriting the equation, but in place of x, I'm putting 4. So as I simplify, I get 12 plus 10 on the left. If I add these together, I see that it does, in fact, make the equation true. So we know that our solution is correct. Try another equation. P divided by -2 minus 7 equals 1. So first, remove the constant term. The inverse of subtracting 7 would be to add 7. All right, what I have left, which is p divided by -2, now equals 8. The inverse of dividing by -2 would be to multiply by -2. This leaves me with p equals -16. Because p is by itself, we have finished solving the equation, and if you want to check your answer, go back and substitute it back in the original equation. Let's try this one. -6 plus 2/5 c equals 24. So remember that first we're going to remove the constant, and that's my -6. Well, to undo -6, or the inverse, would be adding 6, positive 6. It will cancel from the left, leaving me with 2/5 c. And then on the right, that gives us 30. At this step, we have a fraction that's being multiplied by c. 2/5 is being multiplied by c. So to remove the 2/5, we need to do the inverse of multiplying and divide by 2/5. That will cancel it from the left, and then on the right, we have to do the same thing, divide by 2/5. Let's remember that dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, and the reciprocal is when we flip the numerator and the denominator. So I'm going to write this as 30/1 times 5/2. And now we're ready to simplify. So here I'm actually going to cross reduce. 30 and 2 are both even and divisible by 2. So if I divide out a 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. Multiplying the numerators gives me 75. And then for my denominators, 1 times 1 is just 1. Anything over 1 is a whole number. So this is C equals 75. Another one, R divided by -40 minus 2.5 equals -2. My first step is to remove the constant 2.5. So we'll add 2.5 to both sides. And we'll cancel from the left. And I'll write down what I have remaining, R divided by -40. And then -2 plus 2.5 gives me +0.5, or 5/10. Now, R is being divided by -40, so the inverse here would be to multiply by -40. That will leave me with 1 R, and then 0.5 times -40, that's half of -40. So I know that when I multiply, that will give me a product of -20. Now let's solve a real-world two-step equation. Stephanie is registering her son for swim lessons. There is a one-time $45 registration fee plus a $20 fee per lesson. Stephanie paid a total of $225. How many lessons is Stephanie's son registered for? So let's identify the variable. What we're looking for is the number of lessons that her son is registered for. And they gave us two things. They told us that she paid a set fee plus a cost per lesson, and that equaled the total amount that she paid. So I like to sometimes write it out in words so I know the situation. So let's go back and fill in what we know. The one-time fee was $45. We don't know how many lessons she signed up for, but we do know that it was $20 per lesson. Per typically means that we need to multiply. So the number of lessons times 20. And then we also know she paid a total of $225. So now we're ready to solve the equation to find X, the number of lessons that she paid for. To get X by itself, first subtract 45 from both sides. So now 20X equals 180. 20 is being multiplied by X, so to undo the 20, we will divide by 20. That leaves us with X equals 9 lessons. Our last question says, Rachel owes her parents $25 plus 1/5 of the amount in her savings account. If Rachel owes her parents a total of $43, write and solve an equation to find A, the current amount in her savings account. So this time they defined the variable for us, that A is going to represent the amount in her savings account. So Rachel automatically owes her parents $25. They gave us that up front. But then we know that that's combined or plus 1/5 of the amount in her savings. Think about the word of. If I go to the store and buy 10 of something, I'm going to multiply the price by 10. So typically of means that we're going to need to multiply. So to find 1/5 of the amount in her savings, we would multiply 1/5 times the amount in her savings. We know that those together give us the total that she owes her parents of $43. So now we have our equation and we can solve for A. Our first step is to remove the constant or subtract 25 from both sides. 1/5 A now equals 18. 1/5 is being multiplied by A. So to remove 1/5, we'll divide both sides by 1/5. Again, as we mentioned earlier, when you divide by a fraction, that's the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So I'll write 18 as a fraction over 1, and instead of divided by 1/5, I'll show that we are multiplying by the reciprocal of 5 over 1. Now when we multiply our numerators, 18 times 5 is 90, and 1 times 1 is 1. So this shows us that A, the amount in Rachel's savings account, is $90. So that's it. We have answered the questions, what are the parts of an equation, and how do I solve a two-step equation? Great work, and thanks for listening and learning.